Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of the Player First podcast with co-host Fernando, also known as Coach Fernando, and myself, Leonardo, also known as Coach Leo. So if this is the first time you're watching this podcast, I want to welcome you. Now, Coach Fernando, the beautiful guy to my left, is based all the way in the United States of America, and he is the founder and the owner of Tiempo Soccer Academy. The handsome guy on the right, myself, I run the Football Domain Academy.
I was going to say, am I on the right or the left? I don't
know. Football Domain Academy, and my academy is based here in London, UK. So if you are thinking, how is an American and a Brit come together, right? It's very simple. Me and Coach Fernando share the same beliefs, and also we are on a mission to reach, to impact, educate over 1 million club players around the world. And if I'm not mistaken, this is episode 13. So Coach Fernando, we have been very consistent on these. And before we get into what we're going to be talking about today, which is always exciting, how has your week gone over there in New York?
Great week over here. My players had their first league games, first official league games for the first time since pandemic hit and all that stuff. So it's been a while, but it was exciting. I was able to go out to the field, see a lot of my players. From my count, all the players that I went to go play, they all won in their games. They all performed really well. Some goals, some assists. It was awesome. It was really great to see. So had a really great weekend, and then had a really great week of training this week as well. So really great. What about you over there in
So Fernando, is that a coincidence or is that a result of your coaching?
Let's put it this way. The players do the work, and so they get the results. I'm just lucky enough to be working with them.
So it's a coincidence.
Oh yeah, I gotta hold my tongue here.
No, but in all seriousness, well done. Great stuff. As you know, we've already been back out on the field and playing matches for the past month.
That's right.
And I can say it's really exciting to be able to see competitive soccer again. So I'm sure you went through the same feeling on the weekend, right?
Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice.
It's a great feeling. Regardless if your team wins or loses, it's just nice to be out there and watching.
Yeah, exactly, man. It was great to be back out there watching them.
Awesome. Yeah, to answer your question, our week has been good. We had a really good training session yesterday. We unfortunately lost the weekend on Sunday. Our league game, our under 12 or U12 for the American viewers. But we were behind the majority of the game. But the boys managed to push their way back into it. So, and we were, I think, 3 goals. No, our time was 5-0. And we managed to come back and almost tie the game.
Gotcha. I'm not gonna lie, I lost you a little bit. What I heard was you guys were losing, but you came back and almost tied.
Yeah. So so we were 5-2 down at halftime.
There you go. Okay.
And then we lost the game by a goal. But I reckon 5 more minutes we probably would have tied it because we had the momentum at the time. That was a coincidence.
This guy always needs stoppage time. Your team always needs that stoppage time.
Yeah. That was definitely a coincidence, not a result of my coaching.
Right.
So no, it was a good week, and
good man.
Excited about the weekend and the week coming up again.
Yep, same here.
Awesome. Cool. All right, so today's topic, Coach Fernando, we're going to be talking about the fear of success.
That's right.
Right. Now, this is one of my favorite topics because it's something that when I was a kid, I always had a fear of shining, right? I always had a fear of being the best player on my team or the best student in the classroom. One of the main reasons was because I didn't want attention, right? I didn't want that attention, and I didn't want everyone to sort of label me as that kid, right?
Right.
Now, that is all misinformation, because as you get older, that becomes more valuable, right? You want success. You want to be the best player. You want that attention. So does this relate to you when you were younger?
Yeah, I would probably say I had a similar type of experience. Well, part of it was I did want that recognition too, but it was more so because I was caught up in like a comparison with my teammates, right?
Yeah.
And so it became that type of game, as opposed to just worrying about your own successes and celebrating your own wins and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very important topic for kids, because I think either whether you're on the shy side and you don't really like that attention, or you don't want to be that kid or that person that is like, oh, they're better, or right, you don't want to have that type of attention. You think it comes with something negative.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's on the other side and you're more just like so worried about trying to be the best and compare yourself to others, right?
Yeah.
So I think it helps both sides of players.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you were to coach a player, right? So if one of your students came up to you, or maybe not even come up to you, but if you can read their body language and you sort of know, right, they are a good player, or they have a big potential,
right?
But they aren't confident enough in their ability. What's the number one thing you would say to that type of player?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I think you need more context on the player, but just given that information, I think it's about seeing what's going on, like why they're struggling to just play their game, right? Like, how they can. It might be a few different things. It could be lack of confidence, like you said, or it could be that they're worried about, standing out in a negative way. Like, oh, if I score too much, or if I become too good, then people are not going to like me, or something like that, right? So it's about figuring out what it is that's going on in their head. But I think overall the message is worry about doing your best. Don't worry about the outside noise, or what other people think, or what your teammates think, or parents, or whoever. Just worry about your success. And your success is the best that you can play out there. That's it. Just worry about that, doing your absolute best each and every time. So I think that's a very cliche type of message, but it's very true. I think players just need to focus, tunnel vision, on how can I play my best game. Whether your best game means you score a hat trick and 3 assists, or whether your best game is you simply, you completed 5 passes. Whatever your best is, worry about your wins and your successes. Don't compare. Don't worry about nobody else. Just worry about playing your best. Whatever that is, just your best.
Yeah, love that. Now, you being a specialist in youth soccer training, what would you say is the difference between fear of success and fear of failure? Or are those two very similar?
That's a really, really good question. That's a great question, because I kind of go back and forth with those in my head when I think about the youth player. I think they can be very similar. I don't think they're too far off, because at the end of the day, you're fearful, usually because of what others will think. Usually, whether it's you're scared of messing up, right? You're probably scared of what your teammates might say, or your coach, or letting down your teammates, or maybe your parents. Whereas fear of success is still a similar thing. You're still worried about what maybe your teammates will think. Oh, they're gonna think I'm a ball hog now, or they're gonna think whatever, right? So I think in both situations, it's a case of thinking and caring a little bit too much of what others think around you.
Yeah.
So I think they're similar. I think they're similar with different types of reasons, but overall, I think it's just about that player kind of puts too much energy into the opinions of other people,
Yeah.
of their teammates, of their coaches, of the parents, of whoever. And so that limits them because they become scared of what these people think.
Yeah, love that. I completely agree with you there. And that's why I wanted to get your opinion on it, because the traits of both are very similar.
Yeah, I agree.
Because a fear of failure, you're scared to fail, but at the same time, you're scared to fail because you want to succeed. But succeeding, and you know you can succeed, can also become the same fear, right? A fear of succeeding. But you don't want to fail. So it's
right.
It's a mixture of both, and it's a very difficult one to sort of give an exact answer. But they do have very similar traits. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, like my fear was just I didn't want the attention, right? I didn't want the attention of my coach. I didn't want the attention of my teammates. I knew I was a good player, and I knew I had ability, or more than I was showing, but I didn't want that attention. I didn't want everyone to pat me on the back and say, well done, like, wow.
Right. See, with me, it was the opposite. I wanted the recognition, and I got it, right, for all that. But I also, at the same time, even though I wanted the recognition of being a really great player and all this stuff, I didn't want to become someone that like people were like, oh, like, I don't like him. He's too good. He thinks he's too good.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't want to come off as like they're too good or something like that. At least I didn't want my teammates and families to think that of me just because I play really well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's silly to think, because you can still be a really great player and still be really humble. Right. And as long as you're humble in your success, no one's going to think that, oh, you think you're too good, right? Or no one's going to think that about you, as long as you're humble about it. Right? So that was always my fear. Even though I was humble about it, I was never like a braggy type of kid, but I always still had that fear of like, oh man, what's everyone going to think if I like do too well or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I don't know. It was a weird thing I had.
Cool. So when I coach players on this topic, or when I talk to players on this, players that I believe have that potential to become better, but for whatever reason they haven't got that confidence to. Something I always tell them is create reminders. So that's personally something I love to do. So any piece of paper I have, I'm going to write a reminder or a quote. Right? A quote that inspires me to be my best version.
I like that.
Just because I think in today's society we are surrounded by so much negativity.
Sure.
So much scarcity, especially for young kids, right? Young kids as well. Like they go to school and they're in an environment where sometimes it might not be the best environment for them. And then soccer or football is probably that 1 hour in the week where they're happy, all right? Because they're with you, they're with me, they're with people that care. When they're at school, they might just be another number.
Right.
You know, they haven't got that attention. So something I always tell them is create reminders so it reminds you to be great. So it keeps you positive, keeps you driven, keeps you focused. And if you can't create your own quote, then use someone else's quote that you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's really, really good. I think just visual reminders in general with anything is really positive. You know, I do something kind of similar, not necessarily with quotes and stuff, but I do like that. I tell my players to have their goals visible.
Yeah.
Just have some goals written down and make sure it's visible. Make sure you see it. It's a reminder for you of the things that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Which is the same idea, right? Because if you see these things always, it's going to go into your mind, whether you know it or not. It's getting in there, and that those messages are getting across.
Yeah. Correct.
And this is just like whatever you eat, ingest into your body. It's the same thing with what you see and what you hear constantly, what you ingest into your brain. These things affect you, right? Just like if you eat something poor or bad for you, it's going to affect you. Same thing if you are constantly having that negativity around you, that's going to affect you as well. So it's important, like you said, to have visual reminders or a quote or whatever it is that helps you stay positive, reminds you of your goals, whatever it is that'll help you.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we went live, something that you talked about when we were sort of discussing what we were going to talk was being yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes fear of success can be because you're not being authentic, right? You're not actually being your best version, and you're trying to be or follow what someone else is doing or how someone is. Okay.
Yeah.
As people, I believe we're all unique and we all have our own strengths and we all have our own weaknesses, right? Your strengths might be my weaknesses. My strengths might be your weaknesses. There you go. But yeah, all right. Now I've got to bite my tongue.
I'm just getting you back for that earlier comment.
you got me back. So if you want to just like talk a bit more about that, about being yourself and how important
absolutely.
that is.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point, because I think when I was younger, I remember I would try to sometimes be like some of my friends who I thought were like cool or whatever, because I wanted to be cool, right? So, but it's so important to not worry about trying to be like anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be your true self. And it's kind of a hard thing for some kids, right? Because they get peer pressured with certain things. And their peer group matters a lot to them. But at the end of the day, it's helping. It's about, like you said, just being true to who you are, just being you for 100%, not 50%, not 70, not 90, 100% you, and not being afraid of that. Just be you, because at the end of the day, if you're authentic to yourself and you worry about your successes and your wins, you're not going to be scared to do your best, because you know you're just trying to be you.
Yeah.
Right? You're not trying to be anybody else, or you're not trying to appease anyone else. You're just trying to be you. And you may be able to score 3 goals, or you may be able to, I don't know, defend really well, or whatever your skills are. Highlight those things. Be you. Don't try to be something else, right? Do the best that you are. Be the best you every single day.
Love that.
Yeah. Super important. And it's a difficult one for kids, like I said, because they care about what their teammates think and all of that. And that's okay too, but you can't care so much that you try to be like them, and you don't let your own voice be heard, and you don't let your own true self come out. And I know that's something I really struggled with when I was a younger kid. You know, I was always like trying to be like maybe someone else, or fit in too much.
Love that. And not just kids, I think adults as well.
Yeah,
we're very much like that. So any parent watching, this can also relate to parents, right? Because one parent might see another parent as a successful parent.
Right.
So the other one will tend to want to copy that parent. What is he doing with his child? How does he how is his community, like his connection with his child, etc. So for parents as well, you've got to be like authentic, right? Be yourself. Your strengths are your strengths, and your weaknesses are unique as well.
Yeah,
and your
100%.
weaknesses you can always improve. But I completely agree with this, because especially with social media now, where we can follow everyone, we don't see the whole story behind what goes into the final result. You've got a very successful academy, but it wasn't successful from the beginning. It's taken time to build. Okay, but no one knows that. All everyone sees is the final result.
Right.
So yeah, be yourself, be authentic, and under no situation should you change.
And I think you made a good point there with the weaknesses. I think being true to yourself, being your authentic self, is highlighting both your strengths and your weaknesses, because it's the combination of the two that make you authentic.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just the strengths. It's actually strengths and weaknesses together.
Yeah.
Right? So, because I don't know, you can be great at scoring goals, but so can someone else.
Correct.
Right? But maybe you struggle at another piece of your game that they don't.
Yeah.
And so that makes you unique. Whether you like it or not, it makes you unique. And so you have to embrace those things, both your strengths, both your weaknesses together. Be authentic to that. And like you said, whatever your weaknesses are, you can improve on those, right? But you're not going to improve on them if you're not owning that, if you're not being authentic to that, right? Knowing, okay, these are my weaknesses. Yeah. If you don't know that, accept it, embrace it, be authentic to it, you're not going to be able to improve on them, right? So step one, be yourself, embrace it, both positives and negatives.
100%, 100%. Awesome. Okay, the next point I would make on this topic, and something I recommend for both players, individuals, parents, is learn to celebrate your wins.
Yeah, big one.
Fundamental, right? Every single day we have wins, whether we actually realize it or not. But it's being conscious of when you win, right? And your win can be very small. It could be waking up before your alarm clock. It could be arriving 5 minutes before your lesson, when normally you would arrive on time or 5 minutes late.
Right.
That those little things are wins, and if you realize them and you start growing and building on them, that can lead to success.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Now, where it fits into fear of being successful, is that most of us, we take our wins for granted. Right? We think that it's just something that is natural, something that we do without realizing. But I think behind everything everyone does, there's an intention. Right? You don't go to your training sessions without an intention to do something. Right? You go there because you're committed and you want to make your players better. Your players will show up to your session because they are committed to you and they're committed to getting better.
Correct.
Right? So everything has an intention. And celebrating your wins has to be an intention as well. So knowing when you win, even though it's small, something very small and minor, but celebrate it, right? Something very simple I say to my players is get paper, pen, write it down.
Yeah.
See how many wins you can get during the day. Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. Definitely taking the time to celebrate those little victories along the way. It's 1000% okay to celebrate those victories, right? Yeah. That's the first thing to know. Like, it's okay to celebrate when you do something positive. Mm-hmm. It's more than okay. It's actually needed, because what starts to happen is if you do that, like you said, you start to build on it slowly, yeah. Right? One small win when you recognize it for yourself and you take the time to celebrate it, to feel good about it, it'll help motivate you to continue that win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's say, I'll take your example, showing up 5 minutes early to your session, whereas normally you might show up right on time or even a little bit late.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that one time and you feel good about it, right? You recognize it as a win. You take the time to, oh, wow, that was pretty good today. I did that. Then the next time it's going to add up.
Yeah.
The next time you're going to want to do it again. And you start to build momentum, right? And momentum is big to stacking up those wins. So I think writing down your wins is very important, and slowly you'll start to build on those things. And that's something that personally I want to work on myself a little more. I don't take the time to always write down my wins, but it's something I want to start making into a daily thing. Just write down the small little things. Even if it's just one thing, even if you could only think of one thing for the day, at least have that one thing that you write down every day that's a win.
Yeah, yeah.
Big or small, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's a good thing you said that, because that's definitely something I want to improve on as well, because there'll be days where I do it, but then there will be days where I don't do it. So I just want to build that consistency, because it does make a huge difference. Like the days I do it, and then I look back and I'm like, wow, like I've actually had a good day.
Right.
And sometimes we overlook all those wins with one bad thing that happened in that day.
Right.
Just because as society, we are intrigued with failure, right? Failure always gets more attention than success. And that goes back down to the fear of success, I think,
Right. Yeah, that could be a part of it. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. That's a good point.
Because if you keep celebrating your wins, then you become a winner. You think like a winner.
And it can turn around those days that you think were negative. You'll actually, if you take the time, even on those days that you feel like, oh, I had a terrible day.
Yeah.
If you write down those wins that day, I promise you, if you find a couple, and they will be in there, you just have to look for them. It'll turn your perspective around on your day. You'll actually look back and like you said, you'll be like, wow, I actually had a better day than I thought.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to be that type of player or person that's getting those wins all the time, it needs to become a habit. It needs to be, like you said, you need to start thinking and seeing and looking for all those little wins on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not obvious, or sometimes we overlook it. Like you said, we don't take the time to wait. Let me look back. Oh, wow. Win. And you missed all of those things, right? Even small ones, like we said, small ones. The small things lead to big things is what I always like to say.
Correct.
So very important to start building those small wins and celebrating those small ones.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Awesome, Fernando. Great chat with you again.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Like really powerful message I think we shared today. And it's a message of encouragement that become a winner, man. There's nothing wrong with being a winner. Celebrating your successes, wanting success. I think the average person doesn't think of success, right? They just think of being average. They just think of being like everyone else. But any kids or parent watching that want something more, we just want to encourage them to keep pushing, right? Just to keep going, celebrate your wins, be positive, and just keep building on that little success you get daily, and then it'll become bigger eventually.
1,000%. I couldn't have said it any better. What you think in here, how you think in here is what will come out in reality. Sooner or later is going to come from here into reality. So start, like you said, it's okay to think like a winner, to recognize those wins, to want success, to think positively in here, think about all those great things, and push yourself to do the best that you can. Don't compare yourself to nobody else. Just be authentic to you. Whatever your win is or your wins are, that's your wins. It's not nobody else's. It's just yours. Own them. and go for them and embrace them, right? So keep going. Like you said, today was very an encouragement talk to those players to be positive, have those wins, and keep going forward.
Yeah, awesome. Fernando, it's been a pleasure as always.
I feel ready to run through a wall. I don't know about
you. What? I was about to say that, man.
I feel ready, man. I'm so.
You said own your success. I want to just go through that wall now.
Hey, man, I'm looking for it. Maybe this one right behind me. Just go.
All right, awesome stuff. If you are watching, okay, if you've got to the end of this episode,
we love you. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulate you. Wherever you're watching it,
that's a small win for you.
Wherever you are watching it, if you're watching it through Tiempo Soccer's YouTube channel, give them a like and a subscribe. If you're watching it through my YouTube channel, the Football Domain Academy, give us a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, all right, leave them in the comment section, and we are always more than happy to answer them in the next episode, or we can get in contact with you personally to see how we can help you as well. Okay? Yep, so, Fernando, thank you as always. Want to wish you a great weekend, a great week, and looking forward to catching up with you again next week.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. These are always fun.
All right, take care, Fernando.
You too, man. Have a good weekend.